sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said in the authentic hadith, and this is a hadith Qudsi. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this, وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا افْتَرَضْتُهُ عَلَيْهِ. Allah Azza wa Jal said, there is nothing that will bring you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like the obligations that Allah Azza wa Jal commanded us to do. This is the thing that will earn you the closeness to Allah and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything else would be secondary. Everything else is nawafil, and everything else is mustahab, liked and permissible to do. So we need to focus on our obligations. And one of the main obligations, and this is the greatest obligation, after at-tawheed, after one embraces the tawheed, embraces La ilaha illallah, the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal, the greatest of the obligations is as-salat, the prayer. We need to focus on the obligation of as-salat, especially now during these 10 days. And wallahi, my brothers and sisters in Islam, not everyone who performs the actions of the prayer is considered someone who prayed. And there was a man in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam who prayed. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam told him, "Irji' fasalli fa innaka lam tusalli," this is a companion that prayed in the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And after his prayer, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam told him, "Get up and pray again, because you did not pray." So not everyone who performs the actions of the prayer, doing this and ruku' and sujood and coming up and down, not everyone who does the actions of the prayer is considered someone who prayed. So we need to focus and we need to pay attention. How are we supposed to enhance our salat and perfect our salat so that Allah Azza wa Jal accepts it, and so that we can see its reward in this life and on the day of judgment? My brothers and sisters in Islam, when the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam described his relationship with as-salat in a beautiful hadith, he said, حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِن دُنْيَاكُمْ الطِّيبُ وَالنِّسَاءُ وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. Allahu Akbar. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, two things in this worldly life I love, and that is perfume and woman. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam loves of worldly matters. Perfume, because it smells nice, it has a beautiful smell to it, and it pleases those that are around you, and it opens their heart to you, as opposed to someone having a bad smell. For Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam loved perfume. And from this worldly life, he loved woman. He loved woman, al-ulama rahimahumullah said, because woman, when the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam married these women, and he had so many wives, they are the ones who would narrate to us his private life, how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam slept, how he woke up, how he prayed at night, how he performed ghusl, how he performed his shower, and all these matters that happen inside the house. Who's going to narrate that to us? Woman. For Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam loved woman, and he loved marriage, because what is meant by woman here is marriage. He loved marriage because these women later on would relate to the entire ummah the private affairs of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and how he lived as a husband in the house. And there are so many ahadith narrated by the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in where we learn so much about our deen. For these are two matters he loved. Notice he used the word hubbiba. I love from this world perfume and woman, meaning marriage. Then the hadith went up a level when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. جُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. And the delight of my eyes, the coolness of my eyes, the happiness of my eyes was in the prayer. Now, you see, hubbiba, al-hubb is one level, to love something. But if you want to express that you love something more than just the concept of love, the other word for this is قرة عين. In other words, mahabba or hub is one level, وقرة عين is a level higher than love. قرة عين, العلماء rahimahumullah, they said that when your heart and your eyes are filled with the love of something, so much so that you do not look for anything to replace that thing, that is what قرة عين is. So when the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that the prayer was his قرة عين, which is a level higher than the natural love, this is the nth degree of loving something. When he says that, he means that I will not replace as-salat for anything else. Children have been described in the Quran as قرة عين. Musa alayhi salam was described for his mother قرة عين. Isa alayhi salam was described for his mother Maryam قرة عين كي تقر عينها ولا تحزن وقر عينا. Children, Allah Azza wa Jalla says ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذريتنا قرة أعين. Why? Because you will not replace your children with anything else. These are your children, these are your قرة عين, your happiness and the delight and the coolness of your eyes when you see your children. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as-salat was his قرة عين. In other words, you give him the world, he will not replace it with as-salat. Nothing can replace as-salat. This is the level that we want to reach. How can we reach a level that no matter what was offered to us, we will never accept it in replacement for as-salat? Today, so many people have replaced as-salat with materialistic matter. Right? If he has Jum'ah, Salat al-Jum'ah, people miss al-Jum'ah because of a worldly job, because of some money, because of some job that might pay him $1,000 or $2,000. He missed Salat al-Jum'ah because of some materialistic matter. Such a person, as-salat hasn't been قرة عين in his life. For as-salat to be قرة عين in your life, the delight and the coolness and the happiness of your heart and your eye, meaning you will not replace it for anything. No matter even if the entire world was given to you, you will never replace it. This is قرة عين. Is it possible we can reach such a level? Yes, of course. Of course we can reach such a level. So listen, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and I'm going to share these points with you. And as I mentioned in the description, the lesson is going to take long. Be patient with me. If you cannot, then bi'idhnillah, I'll put the recording up and you can hear it later on. My brothers and sisters in Islam, as-salat is the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is one of the greatest rights that belongs to Allah Azza wa Jal. In a hadith, a woman came to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and she said to him that her mother had died and she still had 1 month owing of fasting. And her mother, she still had 1 month Ramadan, she did not fast. So she came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, my mother died and she still has 1 month of Ramadan, she did not fast. Afa aqdihi anha, can I fast this month on her behalf? So when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said to her, and listen to this, he said, لو كان على أمك دين أكنت قضيتيه. If your mother was in debt and she owed someone money, would you have went and paid it on her behalf? So this woman said, yes, I would have paid it on her behalf. فالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, فدين الله أحق أن يقضى. He said that the debt that is owed to Allah deserves more attention than if your mother was to owe someone something from this worldly life. The debt of Allah is more important than the debt of people. So as though Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is telling, of course, go and fast this month of Ramadan on behalf of your mother that she did not fast, because this is the debt of Allah. If you are going to pay back the people money that your mother owed, then most definitely go and pay the debt that is owed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fast those days on her behalf. So what we learn from this hadith is that The prayer is a right of Allah Azza wa Jal. The worships that Allah Azza wa Jal obligated upon us and commanded us to do, they are the rights of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we must show concern with the rights of Allah Azza wa Jal, and we must pay them in full and worship Allah Azza wa Jal the way He commanded us to do so. Allahu Akbar. And as I said to you, my brothers and sisters in Islam, people today are missing Salat al-Jum'ah. People are missing Salat al-Fajr. People are not praying Salat al-Isha because of work, because of worldly matters, because of a party, because of a gathering or an invitation. And they stay up long hours of the night. And then when he gets back home, Allahu Akbar, Salat al-Isha, Assalamu alaikum, and then go to sleep. Allahu Akbar. What is this? We need to change this kind of behavior and attitude to as-salat. This is wrong. We must respect the rights of Allah Azza wa Jal and make them number one in our life. After that, your worldly matters come. Number one is the obligations. Then worldly matters come. You can look after that. After you have achieved or fulfilled the rights of Allah Azza wa Jal. My brothers and sisters in Islam, the prayer is the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is Imadud Deen, as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam described it. He said in the hadith, Amuduhu as-salat, that the foundation of this deen, of our religion, is as-salat. This is the foundation. You know, if you remove the foundations of a house, the house would collapse. So in other words, if you remove the prayers from your life, and you don't show concern in your prayers, you know what happens as a result? Your entire iman would collapse. Your relationship with Allah would collapse. For this is the first thing that teaches us the importance of salat in the life of a believer. That it is amudud deen, it's the pillar and the foundation of the religion. It is the first thing and the first matter that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question us about on the day of judgment. Allahu Akbar. The hadith goes on to say that if the salat was correct and perfect, and there was concern concerning the prayer, then all the deeds you did are all correct and perfect. All the deeds that you're going to do now in the 10 days of the Hijjah, your sadaqat, Quran, tasbih, Allahu Akbar, subhanallah, and the goodness that you do, all of this is depending on your salat. If your salat is given a tick on the day of judgment, everything else you did, bi'idhnillah, is accepted and it's all good. And if your salat was a big cross, فَإِن فَسَدَتْ, if his prayer was corrupt and it was neglected and you showed no concern towards it, everything else you did is gone to ruin. Everything else is gone to ruin and it is of no benefit. Allahu Akbar. How, after you hear this hadith, can a person neglect his salat and focus on other things? Prioritize, my brothers and sisters in Islam, and use these 10 days of Dhul Hijjah to learn your salat and to perfect your salat. Yalla, you have 10 days, you have now 8 days ahead of you as a short training course to perfect a salat, so that after this you're able to pray in a good fashion, in a manner that Allah Azza wa Jal deserves. So it is the first thing that we are judged about on the day of judgment. Also, it is آخر ما وصى به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. It is the last matter that Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم advised his ummah before his death. Just before he died, the Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم said, الصلاة الصلاة. As-salat meaning commit to the prayers, commit to the prayers. And he said it twice, meaning he emphasized it, and this shows its importance. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He praised those who pray. He praised them in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said about Ismail alayhi salam, وَكَانَ يَأْمُرُ أَهْلَهُ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ وَكَانَ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِ مَرْضِيًّا. That Ismail alayhi salam, he used to instruct his family to pray and to give zakat. As a result, Allah Azza wa Jalla was pleased with him. Allahu Akbar. He earned the pleasure of Allah because he would instruct his family to pray and he used to commit to the prayers. As a result, he earned the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. Isn't this the purpose of life? Isn't this what we want in life? To earn the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal? There's the path, as-salat. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said in the authentic hadith, رحم الله رجلا قام من الليل فصلى وأيقظ أهله. May Allah have mercy upon a man who woke up at night and prayed. Then he went to his wife and he woke her up. And if she did not wake up, he sprayed water onto her face. And may Allah have mercy on a woman who wakes up at night and prays and wakes her husband up. And if he does not wake up, she sprinkles water on his face. These people earned Allah's mercy because of their concern for as-salat. This is their concern for a sunnah prayer, which is the night prayer. And they earned Allah's mercy for a nafil prayer that they showed concern in. Imagine then how much of Allah's mercy would they earn when they would show concern in their obligatory prayer. Allahu Akbar, my brothers and sisters in Islam. The more concern you show the sunnah prayers and the night prayers, this helps you in developing concern for your obligatory prayers. And what proves the importance of as-salat also, this is an introduction, that Allah Azza wa Jal disgraced the one who abandons and neglects as-salat. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ. Allah spoke about people who lost interest in the prayer and they abandoned the prayer completely, and they would pray whenever they feel like. They would delay these prayers and pray them at the end of their time, outside their time. Allah Azza wa Jal said about them, وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ. As a result, they followed their desires. They were tested with their desires. Wallahi, there is no one on earth that abandons the prayer except that he becomes weak towards his desires. He cannot control himself. He becomes weak and he submits to his desires and he follows a shaitan, because these are two paths. It's either the path of Allah and you stick firm on it, or you're going to be led to the path of a shaitan. There's nothing in the middle. There is nothing in the middle at all. It is either this or this. Allah Azza wa Jal disgraced the one who neglected the prayer. And this shows how much Allah Azza wa Jal loves this prayer, that He disgraced the one who abandoned it. It shows us the concern that a believer is supposed to have for this salat. What was the result of these people that abandoned the prayers? فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا. They'll be thrown in ghay. They will come in contact with ghay. Ghay is a name of one of the levels in the hellfire. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. My brothers and sisters in Islam, the greatest pillar of Islam is as-salat. As Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith, بُنِيَ الْإِسْلَامُ عَلَى خَمْسٍ شَهَادَةِ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَأَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ وَإِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ. إقام الصلاة, that Islam was built upon the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal, and to accept the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as being the Prophet of Allah, and then إقام الصلاة, to establish the prayer. Also, what proves the importance of as-salat is that Allah Azza wa Jal, at the beginning, He obligated these prayers, 50 prayers. They were 50 prayers at the beginning. You know what that means? This proves the love Allah has for as-salat. That Allah initially wanted us to pray 50 prayers. This is the love Allah has for salat. And this is how much Allah loves to see us standing in salat. Allah loves to see us standing in salat. So the first command was 50 prayers. Heck, my servants, stand up between my hands 50 times in the day and in the night and pray. But then out of mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, He reduced it from 50 to 5 prayers, and He still gave us the reward of 50 prayers. Allahu Akbar. And then we have people that do not see the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal in this hadith. Rather, they took advantage of this and they neglected 5 prayers, when initially it was 50 prayers. That's Allah's love for as-salat, that He made it 50 times a day. There is nothing in our deen that we are commanded to do like as-salat. Nothing at all that we repeat every single day and every single night like as-salat. Can you imagine this? Ramadan is once a year. Zakat is once a year, that's if you can afford it. Hajj is once a lifetime. Innama as-salat was supposed to be 50 times a day. But by the mercy of Allah, it was reduced to 5. And we were rewarded 50. For this proves the love Allah has for as-salat. My brothers and sisters in Islam, also, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listed in Surah Al-Mu'minun the qualities of the successful people, the first quality He mentioned, He said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. The first quality of the successful believers was that they have khushu' in their salat. Yani not the first quality wasn't those who pray. No, pray, that's a matter that's closed. Of course, every believer is supposed to pray. The first quality was that they have khushu' in their salat. Their salat is a qurratu ayn for them. They have reached excellence in their salat. They cannot live without their salat. That is the first quality of the believer. Before giving zakat, before anything. How can we neglect this? How can we delay our salat after we hear this hadith? How can we not show concern in our salat? How can we still rush our prayers when we know this is the first quality of successful believers? Not people that pray, because that's a given. You're supposed to be praying as a believer. Don't you dare give yourself the chance or the option, should I pray, should I not pray? Rather, the first quality was they have khushu' in their salat. And this takes training and exercise. Bi-idhnillah, you get there. But listen to the lessons. Learn how to pray correctly. How to make the salat qurratu ayn. Bi-idhnillah, you will get there. And then the last of the qualities of the successful people in that same passage of Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَىٰ صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. And those who safeguard their prayers, they safeguard them. They don't let any salat slip away from them. They're always careful and conscious and cognizant about their prayers. And they pray every prayer on its time. This was, the first quality of successful believers, and the last quality was something related to as-salat. Allahu Akbar. And from the importance of as-salat is that Allah Azza wa Jal commanded the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to instruct his followers and his family to adhere to the prayer. Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Allah Azza wa Jal commanded the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and told him, pray and command and instruct your family to pray. Allahu Akbar. And finally, or two more points I share with you on the importance of as-salat. And that is that Allah and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam commanded the one who slept through the prayer or forgot about the prayer to pray it as soon as he remembers it. That's how important it is. That even if you slept by accident, let's say, and you slept through Salat al-Fajr, or you slept through Salat al-Isha, or whatever it is, then as soon as you wake up, as soon as you open your eyes and you remember as-salat, get up, make wudu and run to the prayer. Doesn't this hadith prove how important salat is? That even the one who slept through the prayer or forgot it, he's being commanded to get up and pray it as soon as he remembers it. Not, khalas, don't worry, it's gone. Ya Allah, wait for the next prayer. Unlike the other pillars, like look, for example, Al-Hajj. Look at the Hajj, for example. If you miss the Hajj, khalas, ya Allah, wait for next year. Amma salat, no. Don't wait for the next salat. If you forgot it by accident, get up and pray it as soon as you remember it. And finally, what proves the importance of a salat is that it never ever drops in any circumstance whatsoever. Never drops. in comparison to all the other pillars of Islam, they might not be for you. For example, zakat. It's not for everyone. Zakat is not for everyone. Zakat is for people who have money. You pay zakat and other people will take your zakat. Other people will take the zakat. You know, fasting Ramadan is not for everyone. If there's an old man, an old woman, or someone that is terminally ill with a chronic illness and he cannot fast, then khalas, fasting drops. He doesn't have to fast. Feeds a poor person for every day and that's it. Hajj is not for everyone. It's only for the person who can afford it financially and is in physical health and is able to do Hajj. Otherwise, Hajj is not required on your behalf. But look at as-salat. Whether you're sick, you still pray, sitting down, lying down. Whether you're traveling, pray. Whether you're in residence, pray. Whether you're on the battlefield, there's a salat. If you're on the battlefield, it's called Salatul Khawf. The prayer of Al-Khawf. Pray it, even one rak'ah. Pray. Pray. فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا. If you're on the battlefield and there is intense fear, Allah Azza wa Jal commands the believers to pray as they're running. رِجَالًا, as you're walking, pray. أَوْ رُكْبَانًا, on your horses and pray on your horse. It does not drop in any circumstance. Whether you're sick, whether you're in extreme fear, whether you're on the battlefield, your life is at risk, you're about to die. Don't abandon as-salat. And that even, Allah Azza wa Jal commands the believers to pray in congregation. Salat al-Khawf, Allah taught it in the Quran how it's prayed in congregation. Imagine that. If there was one reason to abandon the congregation prayer, you'd think it's Salatul Khawf when you're on the battlefield. Yet on the battlefield, your life is at risk. Pray it in Jama'ah. How can people then neglect al-Jama'ah and the congregation for the men specifically? Even if it's raining, no matter what case it is, you pray. Even if there's no water, make tayammum and pray. Like even if there's no dirt, let's say and you're stuck in a prison cell and there is no dirt whatsoever, there's no water, there is absolutely nothing, pray in the way you are. Ya ammi, wallahi al-ulama rahimahumullah explain this in detail. Even if you don't have clothes on, let's say someone's stuck in a prison cell and they removed his clothes, has no water, has no turab, dirt to make tayammum, pray the way you are. If you don't know the Qibla, pray in any direction. Give me one instant in Islam where prayer is cancelled in concerning a specific individual, other than if a woman was to have her periods, or an insane man that has lost his mind. These people, they're not responsible for as-salat and they're not accountable for it. It was a concession from Allah. But other than that, where would the prayer drop? It never drops. But this is enough, my brothers and sisters in Islam, enough to teach us the importance of the prayer and why we're supposed to make it our main focus in life. And wallahi, my brothers and sisters in Islam, I did not want to start with the 6 points until I gave this introduction of about half an hour. So that now when you understand the status of as-salat in Islam, the position of the prayer in Islam, you will now pay attention to what I will give you of 6 points. So forgive me for this bit of a long introduction, but now bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we're going to enter and discuss these 6 points that, wallah, and by Allah, if these 6 points, you continuously realize them and recognize them and feel them in your heart and in your mind and in your soul before every salat, uqsimu billah, wallahi, it is going to enhance your salat in a way that you have never ever experienced ever. And bi'idhnillah, you've given yourself the opportunity to reach ihsan, excellence in salat. And you've given yourself a chance for as-salat to be qurratu aynika, for the prayer to be the coolness and the delight and the happiness of your eye, just like it was for our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Qurratu Ayn, meaning you will reach the level in where you will fall in love with this prayer so much so that you will not replace it with anything in this life, no matter how valuable this materialistic matter was. Allahu Akbar. Let's mention these points. Write them down, put them on a paper, write point form and summarize, and then make a nice paper and keep it with you and recall them before every salat. If you do that for about a week, 2 weeks, you will memorize them, and you will know that if you ever get distracted in salat for 1 second, you immediately remember these points and it'll straighten up your attention and your focus in a salat. Number 1, and that is mashhadul ikhlas, the feeling of sincerity. Allahu Akbar. The feeling of sincerity. That when you pray, you are praying with sincerity, which means that you are seeking your reward only from Allah and no one else. And you will develop sincerity in your heart, and you will strengthen it when you pray alone, when no one is watching you. This is how you're going to develop sincerity in your heart. Pray at night, pray sunnah prayers in a room where no one sees you, and that way you're going to develop sincerity. Sincerity means that you are praying and you only want your reward from Allah. You want recognition and appreciation from Allah. You want Allah to praise you and you want to earn Allah's love. You don't want people's words. You are not after the people's praise. You don't want the people's appreciation. You don't want the people's reward. You don't care about what people say. Ikhlas is, I don't care what people say. I only care how Allah will see me after my prayer.